Hello, welcome everyone.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar. How's
Hello,
everyone?
namaskar.
Namaskar.
All good.
I think there are 16 Manish Kotharis in the room, and there should be because he's going to. I'm sure he would
After
have
the
cloned himself.
after this event. Yeah, after this event.
So I think one lesson
Is my
we
voice
can all
clear?
learn is that for SPM DEQ is required to deliver SPM. And that's exactly what Manish is going to do. So all the very best. I'm not going to eat up any of your time. Let's, you might want to make this interactive. You might want to deliver some core messages on the principal questions that matter, the tools that you might want to take us through, etc. And you might want to invite questions. So please, it's up to you, Manish, how you want to do this. Let's give ourselves about an hour for this masterclass. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Good evening. I don't know if it's a master class. I have not used that term. And I hope you can hear me better than before. Arnab, you'll have to give me the screen sharing for the other system. Okay. So SPM1, as I had written, is some of the basic principles of implementing something. So I'll try to put together my thoughts behind it, and then we can understand what are the ways we can use this, or what kind of tools are being used, what have I been using, and I have been able to get help from a lot of people. So one of the suggestions was from Bhushan some time back, and I found that very useful. So let me go directly to the relevance of SPM1. Why does it become so relevant for me is coming from, and probably we all know the SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Now in this, when I see specific, measurable, achievable, and time bound, these four which I have highlighted red are very closely linked to the SPM1 behavior, because one is for giving the direction, measurable brings in focus to the activity, and achievable is when I start evaluating my criteria, and then it goes with CRT or the other behaviors which can build it. And if I've broken down the task and I don't have a time frame, then of course that task has no use. Relevance is already there, and that probably is the driving force. So unless it is relevant to me, I would not get into the SPM1 mode at all. And that's where the GST1 or GST2 or GST3 lie. So these are the thoughts from where I thought, let me share why SPM1 becomes so important in a business from my perspective and my experience. At any point of time, there are questions we can stop, we can deliberate. So it's not a fixed format, as we all know, but I'll continue in my flow unless you stop me. So as I said, if I am talking of sharing my experience, then of course I would also look at how do I start looking at SPM1. So I would enter into SPM1. Before I enter into SPM1, it's important that I have a clear objective or a goal to set the direction, as we are talking about the SMART goal, which is specific and something which is measurable, which I can put into a certain framework or certain format. Because if I don't have a goal or objective itself, then probably I'll not be able to make a plan also. Means it does not have direction. And then once I have the goal, I would start collecting information So even for when last Saturday, when we discussed about my sharing the experience, the first thing was to set up my GST3. Because if I did not have a GST3 with me, then probably I would not be able to do what I'm doing today, and I would not be able to plan. So for the foundation of that, and then I started doing my own research. I started collecting. The first thing which I wrote in, even in my stamp, is I asked if there was anything specific or any case study which we want to explore, or and if it is available, since there was no specific case. So I took up the experiences which I had, and I did my personal research, went inside my system, and started to collect a lot of information to put this. So that's how I broke up my, so I started listing the activities, and that's where I went into a macro activity that, okay, this is a objective. So let me understand what activities do I have to do to implement or to put this presentation or share my experience, and divide the information into two parts. Minimum, I think whatever I do, whenever I take an activity, I divide into a macro activity, and then move from micro to nano if required, by continuously breaking down. So it's like till the time I reach the singular granularity, as small as possible, something which cannot be broken down. The more I go in the depth and I'm able to break it down, the chances of my achievement of the SPM1 go up. So I would be de-risking my failure, is how I start looking at SPM1. So these are some examples when I take up a project. So I would break up the activities into, one part is the design, second is manufacturing, third is commissioning, fourth is the civil work which is on the customer side, tooling and die development, and then going into production. Because ultimately the objective, for example, if Mirinbai is setting up a factory, then I'm suppose these are the macro activities which any project would have. So at a macro level, being able to understand that activities and are in big chunks, breaking them is the first macro level SPM1. Similarly, when we started working on development of the silica plastic block, not the technology, but once the product has got established, how would it go forward? So we need a market and product study activity, we need a process capability, commercial viability, production activity. So identifying those activities which will go into making this entire objective successful or reach its goal, whatever we have set. And same is if I take a machine order, then I will break it into machine drawing, timing diagram, manufacturing time. The reason why I've highlighted these two in red is I'll be sharing some of the elements of these two, which I have processed through an SPM1. Because market and product study still don't have a very structured SPM1. But process capability and timing diagrams are areas where I put in a lot of time in these last couple of decades or 3 decades. And for me, it's a very standard routine, and I've been able to build DEQs around this. So from there, once I have listed all the activities, I collate all the activities. And so I'll give an example of how I collate the activities. So for example, we are trying to set up a startup for the SPG plant. So to set up the startup along with Rajnikant and our team, or the startup which is looking at doing this, dividing all the activities into the space, the legal part, the plant and machinery, manpower, how to operate it, what is the sales and marketing. So the first job at micro level, which we are doing in the silica plastic block is, and therefore, the moment we start building this SPM, one documents, they also become the standard.
Manish ji, do you mind just going one slide behind?
Sure.
Just one slide.
Okay.
Mm.
This one?
Yeah. Just one. No, next one. Yeah.
So I'm on this slide only. I have just taken for micro.
Okay. Right. Got it.
I am just taking this activity.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Trying to show an example. Okay. So how do I collate all the activities? Whenever I take a project, as I explained in the macro level, so identify the major areas A, B, C, D, E, F, whichever they are, and then go into the micro level. So this is what we are doing for, and because ultimately our goal is to see that the startup succeeds and our project succeeds. So that objective is very clear at the core, that if I'm making this SPM, why is it that I'm making this list of activities? What is the purpose behind it? The purpose is for the project to be successful, the person who is setting up the plan to be successful, and identifying what all will need to be done to get the project done. So we bring in our experiences, diverse set, and consulting experts in specific fields, and you make this activity. So then I'll give an example of my very early. So before I understood Excel so much, and I was good at drawing as a mechanical engineer. So what I did was I started to understand so I had to make a timing diagram. So to make the timing diagram, you can see what I did was every activity I was plotting on a scale, right? And then building the interrelationship of each activity it's like plotting on a graph. So imagining the machine, visualization of the machine, how the sequence is working, what is related to what, getting into what can work parallel, what can work in sequence. So it's basically a PERT or CPM, critical path method, which is a standard practice when we talk of industrial engineering. But SPM1, I think, has a very strong base from in my learning, because industrial engineering was a subject which I also liked, and I really and I was exposed to this in 1986 before I joined engineering, when my father sent me to commission to just go and see how a plant is being working, and I used to observe the sequence of operation, how things are working parallel, and that was very important for understanding or visualizing how things happen. So the experience of working in the field of how things happen gives a much stronger SPM1 base, and that is where the ISK2 lies, because I have collected a lot of information and I'm using that information, processing that information. If I have some information missing, then I'll ask some expert, and that is how I built this timing chart. And there was another so there are two tools. One is a flow chart. So one is to write, and the same was represented in the form of a flow chart, how the information flows. And this I learned in 1996 from a French engineer when we were integrating a very big plant. And the way he was writing the software in the PLC, and that's when I learned PLC programming, was he made a big paper. That time it was not on the PC. And on the PC, he would draw these flowcharts and start linking from here to there. Okay, this command should go and sit here. So this is making a flowchart and being able to visualize your entire activity on one piece of paper is the foundation of making an SPM to my mind. Then comes the timing, because if I don't dissect my activities, I will not be able to come to the understanding of what time is required for each activity and do the PERT or CPM out of this critical path. So this is interrelationship, interdependencies, and then
Chart and
there is a flowchart I already shown, and there's also one more thing which I did was so everybody would not understand this, and sometimes it was difficult to understand. So I made this. This was for a recent customer, and this was superimposing the entire plant and how it was operating, and using PowerPoint to show the activity. So visualization using simple available softwares, no 3D drawings, no animation, but how to make the maximum use of tools available, right? So I was showing how it works sequentially. And then I said, okay, if I want to reduce the time, because if I work sequentially, that means I have to make so many movements before I complete one cycle. So my SPM was of, let us say, 10 activities. The same thing, then I thought that why can't we make this parallel? And the same thing was visualized in a very different manner. So being able to break down the tasks, imagining it visually and seeing things happen. So it's a cyber physical activity. SPM1 taken with the physical understanding of how things will be in place is also something which I have found very useful in my understanding, standing in front of the machine, looking at the machine, taking videos, so I have made one animation earlier. I am not showing here, but I'll give you the link of that animation where just from imagination of the sequence with my French principal. So he used to explain the process, and I made that entire animation sequence, timing diagram, activities, frame by frame in around 3 to 4 days, a 3-minute film. And then when it was implemented, I went there and shot that entire video in one day, went back, used the video, broke down all the tasks, reprocessed that, and gave them, and this was in China. They did not prepare an SPM, they just implemented. And I gave them an SPM1 that this is how your machine is working. And this is the capability of the machine. So SPM1 is also good for reverse engineering of being able to assess what is your capability. So this was the example on this. And then consulting experts is where, so I use the gym a lot for this activity. And Bhushan Bhatt has been one of the very, very good expert, because he has been working in this digital space. So when I put up a post, he'll come back, Manish bhai, you can use this link. And he connected me with one software which I found, one of the latest tools, which is very useful today. It's called Aganti. It's a German-based software. And so this is making a Gantt chart where you put the activity, you can monitor your progress also over here. And you can visualize what is happening. Of course, it is not automated, but at least you can break down those activities, make an entire list. So aganti.com is a site, you can download this, you can download the template. And when we were making this research project and the professor was putting up for a SERB application, so he was just giving numbers. I said, this is not how we work. First, I want to understand the objective, what all work is to be done. Made that entire list, broke it down into subtasks. So there was a macro level, you can see micro level, and each activity has an estimated time. And though monitoring is something we are still not very strong at, because that data is not coming in a circle. But this monitoring is possible when the software has the capability. So if you want, you can monitor. Otherwise, if you take a simple Excel, it does not have all those formulas, and to build this Excel or template is a tough task. So this is coming from an ISK3 exercise, which I had with Bhushan, and he shared, and then I researched a little bit. So the other area, as I said, was reverse engineering, and there I'll show you also one more template. Let me see. Yeah. So this is for one of our handling systems. Again, as I showed the movement. So there's a graphical representation. There's a target. This is the capacity I need to read. This is the rated. So I'll design at 40.91. And this is a very important SPM3 data. So we know that some mechanical systems, because of the inertia, cannot go beyond a certain speed. So it's like you may have a car, Mercedes Benz, which can work at 200 kilometers per hour, but then it cannot run for more than 2 seconds on our roads today. Similarly, if you look at mechanical devices, there's a certain speed, inertia, and you cannot go beyond a certain capacity. So we do a lot of data collection, and I have been collecting a lot of information. So whenever we now design an SPM1, I make a lot of use of SPM3 when designing this system, because that allows us to take a decision. Okay, this cylinder or this motor can move not more than this speed. Now what do I have to do? So I will not. So I will de-risk my my proposal or de-risk my activity by not thinking that it's not out of emotions, it's more out of rationality, I would say. It's not about thinking out of the hat without any data. So the relevance of SPM3 in SPM1 to me is very important. It's an iteration. So sometimes when we want to design something new, and if we have the facility with us, what we try to do at our factory is if we can simulate that exercise. So I remember there was a movement of a transfer car, which we wanted to increase the speed, and it should be smooth. So I told our team, I want you to do this trial, put a glass of water, and I want to see that that water does not spill. It should be as smooth. So having a visual simulation of acceleration, deceleration, control in what time. So I make an estimated time. For example, the transfer car should reverse in, let us say, 12.5 seconds, or and this is the average speed, 40 meters per minute. But am I really able to operate at 40 meters per minute? Or it is just a theoretical exercise? So connecting theory to practice in SPM1 is a way of identify. So I have identified the risk of inertia, took the data, mitigated the failure of the system before I went and implemented the system. So SPM1 again is connected to that area also. And this brought us to making all these standard templates. So over a period of, let us say, about 15 years now, since I started from that AutoCAD, and before AutoCAD, it was a graph. So you take a square paper and you can draw your bar chart, or you can make your Gantt chart. Moving from there to build a process, a DEQ3, making standard templates, using available tools, and continuously looking at what more can be done. So even if I look at the DEQ processes today, I would be using my independence and self-confidence, IAS1, to challenge my own process by using an SPM1. What I will do is, suppose, so right now we have a case where we are preparing bill of materials using an Excel, and we already implemented a bot which can transfer the bill of material. But to build that also, there are 3 activities which are happening. 3 people are doing the data entry. So I'll identify those tasks, So that is going to the micro nano level, where the principle of data automation comes, to my mind, comes from being able to have data entry only one time, not the second time. The same data should not be entered the second time. So that is mistake proofing and efficiency improvement. So quality and efficiency both come together the moment I am able to break down my task. The second is it becomes measurable for me. So how do I measure somebody's activity? So that SPM, this data collection makes it measurable. So if you take even in manufacturing, the basic principles of production process, PPC, production planning and control, which Niren bhai, you must be doing in your manufacturing. Now PPC is what all of PPC is SPM1, and there's a cycle. So you do plan something, then you take the feedback. So you do your ISK, come back, make your SPM3, use that, recorrect, realign your SPM1s, and identify areas where you can increase. So I suppose Niren bhai, you can contribute to that activity because you are in a process production line. I am in a discrete manufacturing.
Yeah, I think you are already there. So production planning and control, even when we start from bill of materials, you know. So when we start bill of materials, then immediately, like you are talking for to start for production planning and control from bill of material point of view or the production point of view. Where should I
No,
move
it can see every activity to me is production.
Okay.
It's a decision.
So
wherever you
yeah.
take a decision, there's an SPM1.
Because production planning and control is seems very small, but it's very vast, and it involves all the process what we are all the behaviors what we are showing here. Like for production point of view, you have to take care of your materials. It should be there on time. Before material, it has to be all the equipments. If I talk for my manufacturing point of view, all the equipments like mold and whatever, it has to get ready, and then we have to prepare SPM1 for those also. And even that materials, there are different A, B, C grade materials that has to be there before that. Then it has to be all the capacity of the various department for that concerned product has to be done. This is very critical.
This is
because
macro,
in
macro
our
level.
micro level, because
No,
one
right now you're at
product,
macro level. I think you will go to nano and sub nano when you get into manufacturing.
Yeah, so that I'm saying, because for us is more critical, because each and every product have a different sequence of operation. They have different like each and every operation has different time uses. So we can say capacity for each and every operation is different in each and every product for us. So we are also doing a lot of like time and method study, and then accordingly we prepare line balancing to get capacity for that particular product for that particular department. So accordingly we have to prepare our production planning. So like suppose the shoe you are wearing, we can say, okay, this shoe we can make 3,000 pair a day, but the shoe I am wearing, maybe it can go only 2,800 pair a day, or Arnab is wearing, it can only 2,500 pair a day. So here SPM, it's a very important role, it plays very important role to go for each and every department, each and every, and then line balancing, you have to do the time and method study, recorrect it, because whenever we do on a sample level, we find that even workers, when they are showing, they are knowing that you are doing time and method study. When you are doing time calculation, stopwatch technique, they will deliberately work slow. So then your rating, I mean, your time for a particular operation, if normally it should come 1 minute 2 seconds, it will be coming 1 minute 10 seconds. So he is taking 8 seconds extra, and then finally you realize your capacity is getting less as you planned. So even we take care for like, what speed they are doing. Is normal speed he's doing, so we calculate performance rating there also. But since our product is changing a lot, so make one standard for each and every stitching, how much stitching for that particular, and then accordingly we decide, give some allowance as contingency and other things for stopwatch technique, and then we give to that. So capacity building is and calculating is very vast, and I don't want to go in too much detail because maybe people get bored for those things. But just production planning control start with your factory capacity, and that if you go with SPM again, so it go to all the department wise, and then go for the all the component sequence of operation wise. Then accordingly raw materials, then all the equipment planning, then you have production planning, and those all the departments should synchronize in such a way. So suppose in our footwear, suppose if we are doing assembly, our top part, upper and bottom, has to be ready simultaneously to get it assembled on time, so that we should save our timing. So this is also coming finally in SPM, that we have to break in such a way using Gantt chart and whatever. Means I'm just going on little bit management side to make it easier. It should synchronize in such a way that it should be ready, and there is a less wastage of time to get it done.
So Niran bhai, from whatever you have explained, doesn't that make SPM 3 as a very important activity, and a DQ 3 for an SPM 3 to do a good SPM 1?
Since you have already told that line, so I didn't add it. But
Yeah.
definitely this is and because I say when you go for a line balancing also, you check each and every operation. Sometimes you have to alter it, sometimes you have to revise also.
So now you mentioned a very important aspect, that when you want to do a time study, the people who are working will may not work at that efficiency. I
So-
saw in one Japanese firm in Ahmedabad when we were there, they have a complete system of cameras fitted in the plant. Okay. And even for the wiring, harnessing activities they were doing. So they were calculating milliseconds or seconds out of each activity. And the Japanese, and they would have 4 people breaking their head on 1 second for 4 days, just to save that 1 second. That is the amount of depth which they have been doing to increase their efficiency and repeatability, and it is with involvement of the workers. They are also aware. So it's not that somebody is spying on them. That is getting people on board of and being able to relate to why you are doing this is not an easy task, as we say it, but that is how I've seen that company where they went to so much depth, and even they had skill charts all over the place, which person has it, which level, how do you hand over, because you're working 3 shifts on making a control panel wiring. So for example, if Taruji, she wants to do a dentistry, and after 8 hours, another dentist has to take over that activity. That means I must have an activity chart. The person who is coming next must know where the other person stopped and from where I have to start. That is the extent of clarity of SPM 1 and micro planning, which goes when you are looking at a 24 hours seamless working. And that to my mind is one of the most difficult tasks to do.
Yeah.
because we think it is person driven, but to move from person to system needs a lot of SPM 1 activity combined with the other activities. So that's why when Arnab said last week about SPM 1, I know that we are not very, I also don't make a lot of SPM 1 for what I do. Maybe it's in my head, but to move that to hand, it needs a lot of energy and a lot of information. It's not as easy as we speak. So that's I think what I was, even my concluding note, I'll just share that screen just to show you whatever I said was what I had written. Let me see. So SPM1 fundamental activity complements with a GST3 at micro level, a GST2 at a macro level, and the relevance comes from GST1 to my mind. So because till it is relevance, I might not get into the SPM1. Once I have an SPM relevance build, then SPM1 and GST2 and GST3 complement each other. Then going to the iterations of ISK and CRT1 and CRT2 as a continuous process to go to nano level. And it requires a lot of persistence and commitment from people, definitely. So those are, the more you make it system oriented, the lesser would be those behaviors.
Okay.
And continuously looking for new tools. So this is something which many people don't do. I've seen where you stick to the old system, you keep following that procedure. So you might miss some of the recent advances, like using a bot, using IoT, using digitization has moved from one A level to I don't know which level. To be aware of what is happening around you and how it can help in your SPM1. There may be things which you could not imagine. I could not imagine that a bill of material using robotic automation, which we call as RPA, robotic process automation, could go directly from one Excel file into my ERP software without a person touching it. And doing all those activities has saved us a lot of time. So that came because I knew that. So when I would ask, why is this work taking so much time? They would come, no, sir, it takes 4 hours to do a bill of material entry in the software. And now it is 7 seconds or maybe 2 seconds. That is the amount of time saving we can have if we have a understanding of SPM1. So that is all I had to share from my experience. And so Taruji, you asked for the first slide. I don't know which is the first slide. This is the first slide. This one?
Maybe below that. This one maybe. Cannot see her.
We can't hear you, Taruji.
Thank you.
No,
Okay,
all
she just
this, all this is in a shared folder. After we finish, you only have to just promise that you'll not use it for other purposes and not become my competitor. And I'll share this information with you. I'll share the entire Google Drive.
Manish ji, I have one question. In this entire thing, I'm also seeing a lot of importance for PAN too, involving key personnel. So somewhere I did not see that coming in. Like, you know, the sequence is, whatever sequence you put in is good, but then somewhere it's also important to put in the key personnel into the system, and then before we set in the GST3. So, I mean, at least that is that.
Could you give an example? Could you give
like, you know, for example, I'm now writing these stamps for an activity which we have taken up. So there is a indicator that, you know, we have less profitability but more turnovers this year. So based on that, what I did is, like, you know, first involve all the key stakeholders, like my sales head, service head, and production head, and procurement guys, and, like, you know, involve everybody and say, this is the situation. So what is your basic inputs, why this is happening, or how do you want to divide the work? So setting objectives for each and every department to how do we make the profitabilities increase. So I feel it's not me alone, but it's about the team also taking and owning up the entire challenge that is in front of the organization. So that's where I said the key stakeholders also, for me personally, any task I'm doing, I somewhere see this PAN too becoming an important aspect of.
So I think from my perspective, if I may answer, what you have explained to me as you have explained, as you have shared, is an ISK 3 more than a PAN 2, where you are taking the help of the experts within your organization to lift the efficiency or performance of the company based on the SPM 3 which you have made, and then do an SPM 1 to plan how to reach it.
No, before I even go to SPM, see, that's what I'm saying. It's before even I go to SPM, that is, dividing our planning, or even we monitor getting there. First is we should know what do we do. So it's like, the sense of all the key holders owning up the activities. So they also have their own objectives that needs to be done. And then as a owner, I will be basically monitoring and giving them a system where they can implement it. So that's where I'm coming from. That I mean, for me, that becomes an important aspect of my design of things. So
ownership would come by instruction or by derivation?
Derivation. So that's where I'm saying PAN is very important, because they also, every department has to set up the sense of ownership, that and they have to come with their objectives. So
when you are saying
PAN is
sense of ownership,
persuasion. PAN is persuasion, isn't it, Jyotsna?
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, persuasion and networking. So PAN 2 is basically uses key people as agents to.
Jyotsna, if I can try this.
Yeah.
So I just made some notes while Manish was speaking. Okay.
Okay.
So the first thing that he mentioned was how SPM connects with GSTs.
Okay.
That's the first point he made. And the connectivity between GST and ISK and SPM. So he's still in the planning cluster. We're all in the planning. We're all in the head. Okay. The planning cluster is about the head. Power is about the heart, or something else. It's about passion. It's about making things happen because you want them to happen. Whereas planning involves thinking about the right way of doing things, which means that this is whether it's visualization, whether it's through simulation, whether it's through some of these other sequencing of operations, etc., that you mentioned, it's all in the head. So what you're doing is you're composing a musical score in your head before you bring the orchestra in.
Okay, got it.
Right. So this is a head activity. And then the second thing that he mentioned was the macro, micro, nano, the granularity. So he goes down to the very basic details to the extent that is necessary, macro, micro, etc., to be able to get just those right building blocks for the plan. So if a certain plan requires a certain level of granularity, he would go down to that level. So that's the second thing that I understood. The other thing that I understood was the relationship between SPM1 and SPM2 bringing down CRT or contributing to CRT. Because remember, CRT is a hand behavior. It's an achievement behavior.
Yes.
Right. So now you're moving from the head to the hand. So your planning also needs to connect and get you your risk propensities, the amount of risk that you're taking for a certain project. So that derives from this. And the other thing that I understood was the simulation aspect, again, with respect to CRT. So he simulates and gets various outcomes, and that gives him a sense of where the risk, the system is, the kind of risk that the system is being exposed to. And then I understood the relationship between SPM1 and DEQ. Not just DEQ1, DEQ2, but also DEQ3. Ultimately, SPM needs to result in SPM1 breaking down tasks into subtasks with clear timeframes. Ultimately needs to my mind, move to a DEQ3, because that's when you're setting up routines for your organization, which would move in a certain way. So ultimately, you're moving into production, right? So from planning to production, production is DEQ3. So this journey between SPM1 and DEQ3, he articulated very nicely. Thanks a lot. And then Niren Bhai brought in the human factor, right? So he said, well, planning is all very good for machines, but how about humans? What happens when we bring humans into the equation? How do we plan for them? And then he mentioned a very specific example where he said that the moment the humans understand how they are measured for their performance, they'll try and beat the system. They might try and beat the system. So what do you do about that? What do you do about motivation? What do you do about, putting them on because ultimately we're not robots. we're thinking individuals. We're all trying to beat the system. We're all seeking autonomy, right? From the rules and our control of others. We're all demonstrating our IS1s, right? Which is why Empratec is not very popular in various places, because if everyone tries to break the system, what happens then? All right, now for the human factor, Niren Bhai also added this aspect of departmental sync. When departments work with each other, sort of brings out what is needed ultimately for the end equation. And he spoke of man-machine alignment, and this is something that Manish also elaborated. This is something that I think there's a lot that needs more elaboration from your experiences, from experiences of people in this room. How do you put a plan on a set of people? Just by putting cameras, just by doing some measurement of how long it takes a man to move from a corner of the factory to another corner of the factory? Or is it, how about the sutta break? How do you bring that into the equation? How do you work on those things? How about the time when there is a cricket match going on between India and Pakistan? So your planning goes for a toss, or Venezuela and Peru. And thank you very much, Oscar. It's very early in the morning. Thank you very, very much for making it. Superb. Well done. All right. So those are the notes that I made. Just another couple of things. The sequential or the sequencing of operational or operationalizing something, and the visualization. Spoke about the power of visualization. Standing really in front of the machine or the man-machine, whatever, observing the processes, and then bringing it back into developing a more suitable plan. And he spoke about the iterations that are necessary to get a better plan, right? So he kept saying that, a plan is not perfect. You need to keep refining it. So that's the ISK2 Connect, personal research on how to offer a product or service. So sequential and parallel working, we saw an example of that. And we also heard something about reverse engineering, the benefits of reverse engineering in that when you're planning, and Manish Bhai said this so well, when he said your objective in SPM 1 would be to determine the capability of the system that you're working with. Ultimately, through an SPM 1, you're able to understand what is it that you can really deliver. What is it that you are capable of producing? So fantastic presentation, Manish Bhai. Thank you very much, Niren Bhai. Fantastic presentation to both of you.
Fantastic.
Let's take questions. Please, we have some time.
I would like to add one more thing in Manish Bhai SPM. Your your company's SPM, your environment SPM will be different if you are working in manufacturing, if you are working in consulting, if you are working in marketing or sales. So that's why Jyotsna ji also, she was talking, SPM is only giving you that you are working on macro to micro level, and then accordingly you are working on that. So in that case, maybe, your SPM will be different. My SPM will be different. Manish Bhai is more, technical advancement or something is there. Our product are frequently changing. So those SPM and those things are different. So we have to think as per our aspect. And I cannot see.
We can see you.
Granular.
Yeah. So that's really important, and we have to keep working on those area.
Yeah, the granularity is important, Niren Bhai, because you can't take it down to a level where it's not, it doesn't make sense for you to go down to that level. Or,
Arnab, just to, but one of the experiences which I have now is after Rhino's discrete manufacturing, I have into textile, Mimamsa, which is more of a continuous, maybe it's like the shoemaking. And I went through this entire process. It was a very new industry to me, but it was very easy for me to break down the entire task and come to a position where how much time does it take to make one stitch, and how do you cost one stitch? And all that has gone back into making the costing of a stitching activity. So being able to And I remember about 4 years, 5 years back, we were not able to produce as much as we had the orders. All I did was I did their SPM3, got their data, realigned people, and I said, you have got too many people here and less people here. Because I broke down their activities. Explain to me how many people you have in merchandising, how many you have in packing, how many you have in ironing, how many you have in stitching. Every
So that line balancing you have to do as per their time consuming.
Right. And then keep on trying to see where people are losing time. So where is that idle time going? So this is all you take, whether it is a oil processing unit, a continuous process, batch process, the principles to me are same.
Let's understand this a little better. You say that the principles are all the same, and we have Sonal Shah writing, as someone who works in the consulting industry, I've come to have a better understanding of the complexity of manufacturing. Now, let's look at her area of expertise. Social development of society, working with people, almost entirely working with people, working with policies, for example. For example, in a Niti Aayog or in a policy think tank, do you think some of these principles would work? Where it's all that's moving from one desk to another is a service.
No, I'll be honest. I think I just want to say, I feel like this presentation and discussion has actually fired up a lot of thoughts in my head. So I'm very appreciative.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So I'm just asking the protagonists again. I'm going back to Manish and Niren, and I'm trying to ask them what they're doing here. Do you think you just replace machines with man, and is it possible that you could see some you could use similar principles to explain what's happening and how
I would, because as I said, whether it's a man or a machine, to me the principles are same. And so I also worked in consulting. I have also done project consulting. I've done consulting, and I am working with the government, for example, with ITI. I know the entire process, that this is what is going to, these are the activities which will go in to get this processed, or this is so it is going to take 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. So I'll keep on collecting past data, use my SPM3. How much time did it take to get a GPCB license? How much time did it take to suppose a new IAS officer joins in, how much time before we can start expecting action from him? Because he's not going to do it from the second day. So these are all SPM3 which build the SPM1 in my view.
So there isn't a human factor then, which is the missing X in productivity, efficiency.
So there's a factor in the machines also. Machines also don't work 100% efficiently.
Okay.
Sometimes a man can work better than a machine.
Right. Sonal, are you happy with that?
No, actually, I think I was saying the same thing, and I think we were. I'm not sure. I do think there is perhaps a difference. There is a bigger human factor in consulting and interacting with people to get things implemented.
So a Price Waterhouse or an Ernst & Young would possibly not have a time series of activities leading to project delivery, evaluation, monitoring, and performance measurement, for example?
No, I'm sure they would. And for example, we also make Gantt charts. It's like a core part of our work, for example, including flow charts. But I don't know. I'm still trying to, but I still think there is, and I don't have a.
But I think one of the major differences in consulting versus the machines is I would still say it is the pan. Wherever the heart, the heart part of the thing is involved, that plays a major role. Like, how much you take people into confidence. Because for the machines, it is the pre-maintenance, and during the maintenance, that is again the human involvement that is involved. The more you maintain, you maintain them well, pre and post, they will still work. But what is that needs to be maintained for human to deliver? So that is where your PAN comes into picture. So for me, in my
Very good.
organization, at least my experience says PAN has been the most crucial element for success.
And why, Jyotsna, do you still have a human resources department? Why is it human resources? Why humans taken up as resources?
To be very frank, to be very, very frank.
Firewood is a resource. Electricity is a resource. Machines, yes, resource. Consumables for machines are resources. How then are humans resources? Possibly we are not.
Arnab, emotional well-being and emotional part is the main difference, where the planning is different for machines and for humans.
Okay.
A lot.
All right. Okay.
So,
Okay. So you're saying it's difficult to put down processes in a people's organization, in an organization where it's service led.
It's not difficult, but it is different because
how that's what we're trying to understand.
You have to have a plan B with you, like with humans when we are working.
The man-machine alignment. Oscar's put his hands up. Please, it's 5 o'clock in the morning where Oscar is. Please, we'll give him preference.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oscar.
Thank you, Manish, for your good presentation, especially because it's product of your experience. Was rich. Yes, I have a question. I understand you matching SPM with CRT, GST, and DAQ. Why you not consider information seeking? Why? If when we are planning, we all know about that planning is the future. What do you not consider information seeking?
No, I think information seeking is the foundation without which planning cannot happen.
Yeah, he said it at the very beginning. He looked at the connect of SPM with the GST and ISK. I think
without a GST and ISK, we can't do an SPM.
He did that, okay. Oscar. He did it.
So there was so I'll just answer this man machine. About 3 years back, I was in a panel discussion where we were talking about the same question, man and machine, people from different fields. And they're talking of whether machines will take over, and ultimately everybody agreed that everything is going to be run by the machines or man. Machines are just a tool. They are not the drivers. Even if I take a plant which is operating, the maintenance is by the man. We may not see them in the front, but they are at the back. So human intelligence and the emotions of the human resources, as we say, are key to even a fully automatic plant.
Brilliant. This absolutely takes the cake. So what you're saying is, for all the processes that we saw, it's man.
It's man.
So you're mapping man activities and man movement. It's just that machines are being used as tools for.
They are just leverages. They are just
they're levers.
Enhancing. They are levers. They are not the solution. They are not the solution.
I think Sonal is going to be happy now, relatively speaking.
Because ultimately, when you're talking about behaviors, one of the reasons why I've been so focused on working with Empretec for last 3 years, non-stop, is, and when Jyotsna talks about PAN, the entire exercise and my focus is in lifting the efficiency on working on people, not on the machines.
Absolutely. Well said. So when you have automated let's say taxis in Singapore today, taxis that would just come to you without a driver, there still is a driver somewhere at the back. There's a person who's actually responsible for the functioning of the driverless car.
You write a small code, somebody puts a wrong small code, mistake in the code.
Absolutely.
And you'll be thrown somewhere in the
well done. I think this was my biggest learning from this little workshop. Niren bhai, you want to say?
Yeah, I would like to add some more thing on man-machine relationship. Luckily, I was part of UNDP in 20 years ago. 2000, and almost 1.5 years was part of their productivity project, means how to improve productivity in mechanized footwear industry. So I was there almost 1.5 years. I was traveling to Agra, Kanpur, even in Chennai, Ambu, Ranipet, Calcutta, almost 12 to 15 factories. Somewhere 100%, like, only 100 people or 50 people, somewhere having almost 800 people. So wherever we go, because one thing was common, man, because few
Yes.
factories have a more machine, few factories have very less machine. And our first week was just to explain and teach all the personal manpower that we are not against you. We wanted to teach you, we wanted to make your life more easier first, and then we are talking for productivity through your side, not removing the people or something.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So I always feel that man always play the most important role in any organization. Even you put with their machine, without machine, and if you are handling in a proper way, they will manage it, and you can achieve your goal through them.
Very, very good. Sonal?
Okay, I just have a question, and I might my apologies if this is a very simplistic view, but let's say after in manufacturing, would you not after a point want the individual to not think but do, right? To me, that is not possible in consulting practice. Just want to hear thoughts, because you want a certain process and efficiency to follow. Any reflections on this?
May I? So it's a very good question. Your statement is, so you're trying to say that should people get into the instruction mode in the manufacturing and stay in the thinking mode in the consulting? If I can.
No, not all parts of manufacturing. I'm saying that, see, there will be certain parts where, let's say, I think if I use an example of making shoes, then a certain process has been followed, right?
No, right.
Then I'm like I said, I think I might have a very simplistic understanding of, after that process is done, then you don't want, it's a little bit like the military, where you want to follow processes and protocols and not think, no? Because you have set up a system.
So who's the person who is thinking of the process? Is the man.
The person, but not really. I don't think so. Is the person
who
is planning is also the implementing? Is the worker planning, or is there someone else
the
who's
idea?
planning?
So
that is where the SPM of roles and responsibilities comes. Though Indian culture, people keep on breaking boundaries, but the fact of my experience is the more clearer you are with your roles and responsibilities, which is an SPM again, if you give them, then I think more or less people will stick to, especially in a factory environment.
Yeah.
So you don't cross this line.
Right. Now let me give you a different perspective. We are talking of growth of people, right? So capacity building is not related only to business. Capacity building is also related to people. So today, if I'm able to run a machine efficiently and I get 100 rupees, what if I am given the task to run 4 machines and get 200 rupees? So the automation is leveraging the capacity to use the same skill in 10 places. Automation is not replacing the man or his income. To me, it is about balancing of how you lift the income of a person.
So ultimately, the focus is still on the man.
Still on the
yes,
man.
of course. In manufacturing, it has to go in the man.
Anywhere
He's quite emphatic about this. Good. So
it's
man above
basically
machine,
man is
wins.
master of machines.
Man
Yes.
is master, machine is slave. Let's keep it that way. I think it's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you very, very much. We wanted to keep it under an hour. We've just gone over the line, but I think this has been really worth something remembering. Terrific masterclass. Manish, take a bow. Wonderful, well done.
Thank you.
And thanks
you.
a ton, everyone, for
all of us.
Thank you so much,
made to
Mish.
think.
Thank you.
Thank
Loved
you.
it.
Thank you. It's been a great
Good
exposure.
class,
Indeed.
Manish.
I have one little
I'm
thing.
taking a picture first, Taru, before your question. Let's take a picture quickly. The Vulcan sign, if we can. It's extraterrestrial, so there's no constituency that can claim ownership of this, except the Vulcans. So thank you very much. Taru, you had a question?
No, I just had a comment to make. So I remember the story we discussed about the gentleman who used to come late when the son took over the company. And so this time you made Manish take the thing, so he gets his
Yes.
He's got his DEQ in
Earphones
place.
and the laptop.
He's got his DEQ in place. Yes, it's a good
He's got a
observation.
new laptop.
No, it's not a
yes,
laptop.
not a new laptop.
We should
not yet.
we should congratulate him for this thing. He has done it perfectly.
He's done
Especially
well.
that.
It was really clear, very clear.
beautiful.
Yeah, and the relationship between SPM and DEQ is really something that he carried out in
Yes.
person.
Adaba, you can share that paper also. A lot of
God
them
bless.
to-
Thank
will
you
come in the
very
trip.
much, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
And until later. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
See you. See you.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
Have a great night.